Do I mow my lawn before I apply weed killer? What fertilizer is best for my Pachysandra? And what type of sprayer should I use with Image All-in-One Weed Killer? Folks, I've got answers to these questions and more coming up on Garden Sense. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Well folks, today is April 16th and around the middle of April every single year we start to see a shift in the type of questions that get sent into us. Early in the season, we get a lot of questions about fertilizing your lawn. We get some questions about dimension and gallery and when to apply those. But by mid-April, we really start to shift a lot, especially to some of our customers in the southern region of the United States, because it's a lot warmer and they want to start knowing about how to fertilize their plants, what to do in their gardens. And obviously using weed killers becomes a very, very important thing because the temps have warmed up and those weeds are really growing. So we actually picked 5 questions that are a little bit different than what we would typically talk about, at least what we've been talking about these last couple of months. So buckle up everybody, let's jump right in. The first question is from Mike. Tim, I'm wondering if there is a fertilizer that I can put on some Pachysandra in my yard that is looking a little tired. I believe it's due to the drought last year and a hard winter. All right, so Pachysandra actually really enjoys a balanced fertilizer, meaning the nutrition profile is balanced, and Garden Trust fits the bill. So for your Pachysandra, I would 100% recommend that you put down Garden Trust. Now, I don't know how widespread, how large your Pachysandra is. Obviously, it's considered a ground cover. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that you're very carefully placing the Garden Trust around the kind of the exterior of the Pachysandra, and then you're going to have to very carefully start separating the plant itself and dropping some of those granules within the Pachysandra itself. You just want to make sure that any of those granules are not sitting on top of leaves because that could cause some harm to the plant. So I would absolutely recommend Garden Trust. In addition, because you said it's looking a little bit tired, I would actually make sure that you're using Kickstart on it at least once a month. Now, to maybe kind of give it a little bit of a jump start this spring, you may want to use it once a week for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Great thing about Kickstart is you can just spray it all down. You can just go ahead and put it all over the leaves of the Pachysandra. You can also use it as a soil drench, but again, because it's a ground cover, just hose it down really, really well. And within the next couple of weeks, I would hope that your Pachysandra really starts to turn a corner and it should really green up. And if it's a variety of Pachysandra that will actually have some flowers on it, you should start seeing those here pretty soon as well. The next question is from Marcia. Tim, my lilac bush didn't have a single bloom on it this year. Should I give it a good crew cut? So lilacs can definitely benefit from a little bit of a trim every season. Now typically you would actually provide a pruning on it right after it's done blooming. Obviously, you didn't have any blooms this year, so if you want to get started on that right now, that's perfectly acceptable to do. What I would also recommend, though, is you make sure that you're feeding it properly. We didn't talk about fertilization, but now would be a good time to put down some Garden Trust. Garden Trust helps plants like a lilac bush produce brighter blooms. So there's a good possibility it just simply didn't bloom because it wasn't getting the proper nutrition. Based on the picture, it looks very green and very leafy, which means it's probably getting plenty of nitrogen, but it's missing some of those other nutrients and other minerals that are really going to help those blooms pop. So a little bit of a cut right now would be just fine. Give it some Garden Trust, and then this time next year, you should see some beautiful blooms on your lilac. The third question is from Jonathan. Good morning, Tim. I'm ready to apply the Weed Beater Ultra spray to kill the weeds. Please confirm the temperature range for best use. Also, do I cut the lawn and then spray? Okay, so a safe range is between 50 degrees and up to 85 degrees. If you apply a weed killer in that range, you're going to be okay. If it's under 50 degrees, which means it's a little bit cooler, chances are it's not going to work very well if it's going to work at all. If it's 85 or above, it'll kill the weed that you're trying to kill, but because the weed control products that we're talking about are within your turf within desirable grasses. If you go above 85, there's also a really good chance that you're going to actually kill the grass as well. And I'll be honest with you, there comes a point for every plant where it's too hot, it just stops growing. So you need even the weeds to be actively growing for this weed killer to be effective. So the magic range for most weed killers is going to be between 50 and 85 degrees. Personally, I try to wait till we're a little bit closer to 60 degrees. Therefore, I can guarantee you that plant, that weed in this case, is just actively growing even on some of those colder days where it's going to dip into the 50s. Now, in terms of mowing your grass, I would not mow your lawn before you apply the weed killer. And the reason for that is the weed killers that we're recommending in this case, you're going to be using Weed Beater Ultra. You want as much leafy surface of that leaf to come in contact with the chemical that you're spraying on. If you cut the lawn, you're actually cutting a lot of that leaf surface away. And so your weed killer is actually going to not be as effective. So if you can, I would actually put down the weed killer and then wait several days, as long as you can, frankly, at least 4 or 5 days before you go ahead and mow the grass. The fourth question is from Peter. Tim, I enjoy your videos. Sorry, but I am new to this. What type of sprayer do you recommend to apply all-in-one? So there are 3 primary types of sprayers. You have a pump sprayer that you hold in your hand, you have a backpack sprayer, and then you would have something like a hose end sprayer. Image All-in-One will work with all of them as long as you have it set for the proper rate. And I believe Image is 4 ounces per 1 gallon of water. So as long as you have the proper setting for any of those, it's going to be effective. Now, for me personally, if I'm just doing some spot weed killing, meaning there's just a couple of areas that I want to hit, then I just use a handheld. So I've got my hand pump, and again, I put a gallon of water in it, I put 4 ounces of the weed killer, and then I go to those specific areas and I spray. If I am trying to kill weeds in my lawn universally, meaning there's weeds everywhere, or I want to make sure that I'm killing anything anywhere, for example, before we do our overseeding process in the fall, then that's where I would actually use a hose end applicator, because I'm going to be taking care of the entire lawn anyway. So for the spray in the summer, I just use my handheld pump sprayer. For the overseeding process, when I want to kill those weeds in the early part of the fall, I actually use a hose end sprayer. But again, you want to go ahead and use a backpack sprayer, that's totally fine. There's no right answer for this. It's really just what's most convenient for you at the time you're trying to kill the weeds. The final question for today is from Jimmy. Tim, I used the Kickstart in my hose end sprayer at the rate of 1 ounce per gallon. What I could not figure out is how much to spray in each area. It says to spray it uniformly over the lawn. So this is a really difficult question to answer, and believe it or not, I get this question a lot. The reason it's tough to answer is because there's not really a correct answer to the question. For example, I can say spray uniformly. That's what the instructions say on the bottle. Well, what does uniformly mean? Well, again, depending on your water pressure, depending on how fast you're moving your arm back and forth as you spray it across your grass, there are a lot of variables to that. At the end of the day, Kickstart is an organic product, and if you use too much in a particular area, you're not harming anything. The plant may not take in all of it, and worst case scenarios, maybe you waste a little bit of product. Likewise, if you don't put enough down, it's okay. The plant's going to take in what it can, and then again, you're just going to be able to apply more at a future date. You're not going to harm the grass. You're not going to harm your plants. You can go ahead and spray it down as much as you want. I know that when I use it, a single bottle is going to cover 5,000 square feet. So if I'm covering an area that's, 3,000 square feet, then I'm going to try and use, roughly 60% of the contents of a bottle. And so again, you just try to measure and gauge in the basin of that handheld sprayer, assuming that's what you're using. So again, there's really no right or wrong answer to this. Just use your best judgment. Again, people use Kickstart as often as once a week on their plants, as often as once a week on their lawn. So again, your plants are only going to benefit from more usage. So if it's just simply getting more than you think it should, then back off. If you don't think you're giving it enough, then give it a little more. In any case, you're not harming the plants, especially if you're already fertilizing your lawn with, Turf Trust, or you're fertilizing your garden or your trees or your shrubs with Garden Trust or Plant Trust. Those products should be your primary fertilization method. Kickstart is just designed to strengthen the roots of those plants to allow it to take in more nutrition. You're not going to harm it if you overspray it. So a very long-winded answer, really, to just tell you there is no right answer. You just have to use your best judgment. All right, everybody, just a couple final thoughts before we wrap up this week's video podcast. Folks, we have officially set a date when we are closing out the Turf Trust Triple Play over at rosensonline.com. So folks, the sale is going to end this Saturday. That is in a couple of days. So if you have not taken advantage of the special pricing and the free shipping that the Triple Play offers, head over to rosensonline.com right now and make sure you pick up a bundle or two. Remember, it contains Turf Trust fertilizers, the Turf Trust broadleaf weed control with Gallery, and the Turf Trust crabgrass control with Dimension. All three of those products can be applied right now. It's what your lawn needs to continue to look beautiful. So head over to rosensonline.com right now. Again, the sale is ending this Saturday. Folks, it is now mid-April, and if you haven't already done so, you really need to start getting down an application of Dimension. Dimension is going to help prevent grassy weeds like crabgrass from popping up over the summer and into the fall. It's going to prevent germination of those grassy weeds. So make sure that you're putting it down right now. This is the absolute best time to apply it. So head over to rosensonline.com and take advantage. Folks, I talked a little bit about it already, but Kickstart. Kickstart is a product that you want to incorporate into your regular maintenance for your lawn, for your gardens, for your trees, and for your shrubs. So head over to Rosens Online and pick up a couple of bottles. You can also buy it by the case. This is a product that your plants can simply not get enough of because it strengthens the root system and allows those plants to take in more nutrition that's being put down thanks to Turf Trust, thanks to Garden Trust, thanks to Plant Trust, or frankly, any other fertilizer that you're using. Folks, as always, we really appreciate all the emails that we get each and every week. And if you have a question for us, make sure you send me an email directly. Send it to tim@rosensonline.com. Give me about 48 hours to respond. Folks, I know I've been a little bit behind that 48-hour window. The last couple of weeks, we have been receiving hundreds of emails, and we're happy to get them. But again, I am a little bit backlogged. So if I haven't gotten to you in a couple of days, feel free to shoot me another email. Again, you can even copy the exact question. If I do receive it, I promise that I will get back to you. Folks, Easter is this weekend, and we hope that you set some time aside to really enjoy it with your family. We really thank you for taking the time today to watch this video. So we hope that you have an amazing rest of the week. We hope you have a blessed Easter celebration. God bless.